Yes, here we are, Tuesday, May 8th. Sports Bit, betting inside today, SBRpicks.com, Pauly and Teddy. I'm at Real Sports Bit. He's at Teddy _ Covers doubleheader, and the association could be the final doubleheader of the season. Likely to be the final doubleheader. We'll get to the Western Conference playoffs in a second. Two big prices coming up, two big spreads. We'll also kick around the adjusted future odds in the shot clock as well. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. We'll start in the NHL playoffs. Double dog night on ice. Capitals exercised the demons. Penguins took money, $1.75 up to $2. For the first time in 20 years, the Capitals make it to the conference finals. They had lost 6 games in a row when they had a chance to win and advance in the conference finals. They were 1-9 all-time against Pittsburgh in the playoffs. Now 2-9 as they win the series. They win in overtime and win the series in 6. They exercise the demons. Ovechkin. We'll see if Chris Paul can do it tonight. Ovechkin makes the conference finals.
Yeah, he does. But of course, from a betting standpoint, this was a very good series for the bookmakers here in Las Vegas and across the offshore world. Pittsburgh was a popular public choice. Last night, Pittsburgh was a popular wise guy choice. Pens bet up to as high as -$2. But the Caps get the money. Bookmakers smiling all the way to the bank with Washington advancing to the conference finals.
And for the third straight game, the road team wins in the Winnipeg-Nashville series. Winnipeg was in position to close out Nashville at home. They lost 4-0. Pekka Rinne has been hot and cold. You don't know what you're going to get out of him. He's either great or he's awful. And now a team that you had to go back to late February before this series. The last time they lost a home game, they'd won 13 in a row. Nashville's beat them 2 in a row in Winnipeg. Game 7 Thursday.
Sure. And, anytime you're talking about a team that comes home for game 6 in a clinch-out game and doesn't get the win, and now they have to travel back for game 7, those aren't normally positive expectation situations. Tough loss for Winnipeg and their backers last night.
All right, look at this now. The Sixers avoid the sweep. They were late. It was open 7, bet down to 6, then back up to 7. They got the money and covered against the Celtics, even though they trail 3-1 in this series, and Boston has home court. Look at the adjusted series price. Boston's only $5, and Game 5 will be tomorrow as the Celtics try to close them out where they're 6-0 straight up and ATS at home in the playoffs.
Sure. Last night, Philadelphia was a better team from the get-go. Boston had foul troubles. Right. At halftime, they had 4 guys with 3 fouls, which is an issue when you only have an 8-man rotation like Brad Stevens does. And the end of the game, the foul disparity was much greater because they were doing a hack of Ben Simmons to try to get going. But the bottom line, that series is a little bit testy right now. And all of a sudden, the Celtics have some pressure. The early money for Game 5, and we'll preview this game thoroughly tomorrow. But the early money in Game 5 has come towards Philly. The market is still convinced the Sixers are the better of the two teams, regardless of what floor the series is being played on.
Yeah, they're favored again. Unbelievable. 1, 2, 3, Cancun. Play of the day winner. Cavs minus the points. Little wise guy money on Toronto. You figure it out. 128-93. Raptors were total frauds and front runners. Again, that tweet we had about late March on the show. They had the second worst defense in the league against top 10 offenses. Cleveland had a top 10 offenses. Cleveland was a top 5 in offense, and they ran them out in this one again. 10 straight playoff wins over the Raptors. They're going to have to blow that up. Fire Casey, move DeRozan or Lowry. That's a shit show in Toronto.
It's a shit show that's been in the at least the second round of the playoffs now, multiple years running. So for as bad as this series was for the Raptors, considering where the franchise was 5 years ago, I don't know if you complain that much if you're Toronto. That being said, last night's result completely one-sided. And again, the wise guys, the sharp money, betting regular season stats on the Raptors, that one stunned me. I couldn't believe that line didn't skyrocket. But every time it got bet up to 5.5, there was a wise guy ready to bet it down to 5. Oh, the Cavs can't lay. The Cavs can't lay. The game was over by halftime. No sweat decision in that contest. And certainly a bad result for wise guy bettors. Public didn't do too bad with that game, though.
Yep. How about some bad bets? Giants 102 up to 120, routed at Philly. Samardzija had nothing. And the Sixers Celtics over 204.5 to 206.5. Couple bad for the books. The Twins plus 130 down to 110. They shut out the Cardinals. Looked like the Cubs were fine. The Cardinals were the dead team after that long 14-inning marathon with 2 rain delays on Sunday night. And the Rangers took money. Matt Moore didn't have much, but they won 7-6 and beat Detroit plus 105, one off $1.10 favorite.
Yeah, and no surprise. Certainly with the Minnesota money coming, the situation for St. Louis was pretty bad with the Twins resting in their hotel rooms well before St. Louis finished that marathon on Sunday night against the Cubs. And you talk about the one game that was particularly bad for the bettors. Couldn't understand what the money was coming in on San Francisco. I understand the Giants had a good series in Atlanta, but Samardzija, he's not bet on it. Not even close right now. The Giants starting pitching is in a world of hurt. And it certainly showed yesterday, although the books ended up doing pretty well with that contest. San Fran closing at minus 120 as chalk.
Interesting 2-game set begins tonight at Dodger Stadium. They take on the Diamondbacks. If they lose both games, they'll be 10 back. They don't play the Diamondbacks again until August. And they just lost Kershaw again, who's put on the DL. What a terrible road trip for the Dodgers, and it's their 3rd big injury already on this young season.
Sure. When you look at the Andy McCulloch tweet about LA's brutal road trip. Day 1, Pedro Baez falls off the mound. Day 4, Corey Seager blows out. Day 6, Ryu tears a groin muscle off the bone. Day 8, first combined no-hitter in franchise history. Day 10, Clayton Kershaw injures his arm. Right now, as we speak, the Dodgers have more than $93 million on the DL. That's higher than the total payroll of the Oakland A's, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Tampa Bay Rays, all of whom have higher winning percentages than the Dodgers do right now. Again, Justin Turner's out until midway. Tom Kohler won't be ready till after the All-Star break. Corey Seager's not coming back this year. Julio Reyes isn't likely to be back anytime soon. Puig's hurt. Logan Forsythe's hurt. Kershaw, Ryu. It's ugly for the Dodgers right now. And of course, they're chalk tonight against Arizona, even though Zach Godley, who struggled against them earlier in LA, he's had more than his fair share of success against the Dodger bats. It's, in theory, a get-well spot for LA coming home. Dodgers not a team I trust right now, not even a little bit.
Yeah, it's Rich Hill off the DL too. All right, here we go. Doubleheader tonight. NBA playoffs, Western Conference. Game 1, Rockets look to close out the Jazz. It's 12 and 207.5. Thanks to Intertops and Bet Online. Intertop Sportsbook, 22 years online. Sign up, deposit, and win. No Exum, no Rubio. 7-1 this season. Rockets straight up, and they've all 7 of the wins by double digits. They only lost game 2 at home. What a performance on the 2 road games in Utah. They won 187 and 113-92. Tucker said it's all about defense. That's how they're going to go to the finals. And he's right. They're the number 2 defense in the playoffs, and they were number 6 in the regular season. They shut down Utah in those 2 road games. And in game 4, they held them to 39 second-half points.
Sure. And the quote from P.J. Tucker is worth reading. Quote, "That's how we're going to win, period. Defense is going to win championships. At this point, everybody who's still in the playoffs is a great team. Everybody can score. Everybody can do anything. So it's going to be the team that prevails on defense, the team that gets stops, that's going to win." And of course, Utah shot 51% from the floor in the 2 games in Houston, 41% from 3-point range. And then the last 2 games in Utah was a little bit different. 40% shooting for the Jazz in those 2 losses, 31% from beyond the arc. So a lot of it was Houston's defense, but we're talking about a Jazz team that's playing without their starting point guard in Ricky Rubio and their backup point guard in Dante Exum. That's an issue. The strained left hamstrings are a problem that's not going to go away for the Utah Jazz in Game 5. And look, Game 2, they had the remarkable shooting performance. Donovan Mitchell was finding everyone. Ingles went nuts, and Crowder went nuts, and they just torched him from the perimeter. But that was then. This is now. Since that Game 2 success, we haven't seen Utah, A, hit any of those perimeter shots, and B, even get many good looks against a Rockets defense that looks fairly focused at this stage of the campaign.
Well, D'Antoni said this after Game 4, and he's right. What happens? The Rockets haven't shot the ball well the entire playoffs. They had the one great third quarter against Minnesota, and then they played well in game one of this series. But other than that, they haven't shot it well, and the supporting cast hasn't shot it well. So they could win both series here in 5 without getting a monster effort from the supporting cast. Eric Gordon played well in game 3. But the big key, and it is a big 3, Paul Harden, and don't forget about Capella, who's the most underrated player in the league. He's averaging 15 and 13 in the playoffs and is outplaying Gobert and has been terrific at the rim, blocking shots. Guy's been awesome the whole season and in the playoffs in this series.
Sure. Look at the quote from James Harden talking about the center behind him. Quote, he's put himself in this position to go out here and play at a high level and just do the things that we ask him to do. Every single night he has our back, and it feels good to have someone have our back like he does. He doesn't get a lot of credit for it. He doesn't ask for a lot. He just goes out there and does his job every single night. As a result, 6 blocks and 20 altered shots. That's what happened in game 4. That's what he does. So here's Houston's defense, now ranked number 2 in the postseason in efficiency. You know, Derek Favors is banged up. He was pretty hobbled in game 4, essentially a non-factor in that contest. And with Capella playing defense at the rim as that rim protector, you know, Utah missed a bunch of bunnies in game 4, and a lot of that was Houston's big man affecting their rhythm. Quinn Snyder, quote, you can't take anything away from them and the way they play, but in order to beat them, you have to be able to convert those opportunities, and we just didn't. I'm not convinced those opportunities are going to get converted any easier for the Utah Jazz tonight. They have been a character team, but they're also rule number 1 of the NBA playoffs. When a team is done, they're done. And I think the Utah Jazz might be done.
Yeah, and you touched on it. The total might be too high as well with these injuries, and they couldn't get anything going on offense at home. I like the adjustments they made, the Rockets in Utah, posting up Paul taking the mid-range jumper, getting in the lane and knocking down shots. He was terrific. And with a win tonight, he'll make the conference finals for the first time and set up that heavyweight matchup in the Western Conference Finals. Game 2, Golden State at home, 11.5, 227 the total. I saw the Pelicans 120-1 to come back and win this series. How about that? So they are trying for their 15th straight home win in the playoffs, which would tie an NBA record. They figured to get it tonight, and they blew them out in game 4. That was the Golden State team we all know and love, 118-92. And the return of the death lineup, as Kerr put them back in the starting lineup. The death lineup was sensational. Durant had 38 points. The defense played well. And here they are, though they've struggled in this spot. 4-14 ATS in their last 18 games following a straight-up win. Pelicans also got the money in Golden State game 2.
Yeah, I mean, look, you talk about that death lineup with Iguodala along with the All-Stars, Curry, Thompson, Durant, and Green. He put that lineup in to open the game, and lo and behold, a 17-4 opening run. And it was ball game right there. So we give Kerr credit for making adjustments. Let's also give Golden State credit for the strength of this home court. Betting against the Warriors at home in the postseason, not necessarily an easy thing to do. They've won 14 consecutive playoff games right here on this floor. That's one shy of the NBA record. The Bulls hold that record. They won 15 straight at home in 1990 and 1991, those 2 postseasons. So it's a strong home court. It's a lineup that is now healthy and clicking on all cylinders. But as you mentioned, it's a Warriors team that has not been particularly good in this role this year. 4-14 the last 18 following a win. Meanwhile, the Pelicans, this has absolutely been their role. 11-2 against the spread, their last 13 overall. They've been an undervalued commodity since day 1 of the postseason. And 13-4 against the spread, their last 17 on the highway. Worth noting, that 13-4 mark, 2 of the losses came by a half point. It could very easily be a 15-2 point spread mark for the Pelicans on the highway. They've been good, consistent moneymakers in this road dog role.
All right, what happens with the Pelicans now? With the bench been outscored 134-95 in the 4 games, so they burned the starting lineup. Davis 39 minutes, Holiday 38 minutes, leading the series in minutes played. Gentry called off a workout on Monday in Oakland. Quote, we do have guys that are playing heavy minutes. Really, all the starters are playing really heavy minutes. I thought it would be a good idea to let their minds rest, let their bodies rest. Well, they're also, what is it now, like 27-3 the last 30 times they've met, whatever it is, straight up. What do you think? Can you you're going to make a case for the dog, and could we see the third straight under?
I wouldn't be laying with Golden State here. I do think that of the two double-digit dogs tonight, you asked me which team's more likely to show and fight to the finish. I'll say New Orleans, simply because A, they're healthier, and B, they're better. The Jazz, without being healthy, you can't expect a whole lot. Whereas New Orleans, they're healthy and they're coming off a bad game. We've seen them do very, very well in this role. That being said, Golden State's been dynamite at closing teams out when they have the opportunities. And let's put it this way. They've held the home court advantage in every single playoff series that they've been in since Steve Kerr took over as head coach, 2014, 2015. And they've won Game 5, always at home, in 8 of the last 9 times the series has reached a Game 5. The only loss that they've suffered in this role came Game 5 against the Cavs back in 2016. We all remember that game. That was a game that Draymond Green was suspended and allowed Cleveland to get the momentum and end up winning a title because of it. But certainly it's a Warriors team that has taken care of business, a Warriors team that's done it on the defensive end in particular. What they've won every game, and they hold an opponent under 100 points. But you talked about the rest for New Orleans. I thought it was an interesting decision from Gentry to give the team the day off yesterday. Say, hey, get your heads right, get your bodies right. They've done well with extra rest here in the postseason. They have not done well when they've been a little bit fatigued. In theory, tonight, they should be more rested than they were in the ugly loss over the weekend in game number 4.
Yeah, the total will be the play of the day coming up in a second. Time to turn on the shot clock. It's SportsBit 2.0, SportsBit Live, Pauly and Teddy at Real SportsBet at Teddy_covers. Let's find the best bet here today. Jeff Sherman at Golf Odds on Twitter. You have the Warriors are 5-7 to win the championship. The Rockets 7-4. Apologize for the connection right now. Cavs 5-1, Celtics 20-1, Sixers 80-1, and you got the Jazz and Pelicans, with big prices as well. Cavs minus $3 to win the East. Sixers are set 15-1, and the West, you got some odds up there as well. What do you think? Is there anything out there that if you got a gun to your head that you would like to bet now with the adjusted odds?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're talking about one good bet you can make today off of these numbers, the one that stands out to me is the Philadelphia 76ers at plus 1,500 to win the East. Let's just put this scenario together, okay? Philly wins their favorite in Game 5 in Boston, all right? Then they'll be big, assuming they win that game. They're big chalk home for Game 6. They travel to Boston Game 7. They might be favored there. It won't be any worse than a pick 'em in that contest for Philly if they win 3 in a row and have to travel back to Boston. And then would they be dogs to Cleveland? Yeah, they'll be dogs, short dogs. I don't see it much, plus 200 maybe against the Cavs. I don't even know if it would be that high. So at 15-1, Philly makes sense to me. Even though they're a long shot, that's the bet mathematically that works out the best in your favor. You like the Sixers if you want to take a shot today.
All right. I said it a couple weeks ago. I say it again. The Warriors to win the title. And you still get a great price on that. Remember, they were as high as $3, the yes-no prop before the season. And they have the best team and all the talent, the defending champs. Houston will give them a series. But still, if you can find $1.20 or better odds than that. I know there was a big $20,000 bet last week at the South Point. Even money as well to win the title. I'd say Golden State to win it all. And my God, what the series price would be if it's Golden State Cleveland in the NBA Finals. Money time, play of the day. Back to Golden State. Betting number 507, 508. Let's go New Orleans, Golden State under 227. 3 of the 4 games have gone under, and maybe a repeat. Now, the last 2 weren't even close, especially Game 4, although it was a good point by you with the Friday night into Sunday afternoon short turnaround. Pelicans couldn't make a 3. I think this could be a blowout again, which would mean Golden State puts the backups in, and it dies. Remember, Game 1 in a blowout, the Warriors scored 12 points in the final 8 minutes. We'll go under 227 and hope 4 of the 5 games in this series go under. That is the play of the day. More college football win totals coming up tomorrow. Big 12. And we'll get to Game 5, see if the Celtics can close out the Sixers. Also, best ROI, best and worst ROI for pitchers in Major League Baseball as well. When we'll recap what happens tonight, too. We'll talk to you then. Thanks for watching SportsBit Live, Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.